This is a 2025 Acura ADX A-Spec with advanced package. Acura's newest, smallest, and fourth crossover in the lineup, and one that promises a feature-rich interior and an Integra-like engaging drive. My name is Robin Warner, and I'm going to show you around and inside this SUV, as well as drive it on a variety of roads to show you how it feels. The A-Spec with the advanced package is the top of 3 trims offered above the base ADX and the ADX A-Spec. So, is it a feature-rich interior? Does it offer an engaging drive? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price of a base ADX with front-wheel drive is $36,350. Jumping into the top of the line, A-Spec with the advanced package with all-wheel drive raises that price to $45,350. By the way, adding all-wheel drive adds $2,000 to the cost, regardless of which trim you choose. It's available on all 3 trims. And my test car does come with an extra cost paint and a few accessories and costs $46,915. All right, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside and under the hood of this brand new Acura crossover. Looking at the front of the ADX, it's instantly recognizable as an Acura. We do have the diamond pentagon grille right here in front, and it does have this really interesting pattern. It's very three-dimensional, and a massive Acura logo in the center, no doubt hiding adaptive cruise control tech behind it. Because this is an A-Spec, we have LED fog lights down here and gloss black interior trim around there. But there is an additional piece, this added front lip right here. So here's the line right here. This added lip right here, that's actually a $400 accessory. When you look at the hood itself, I see a lot of Integra in the shape of the hood, to be sure. And there's a lot more similarities to the Integra when you look underneath it. Because just like the Integra, underneath the hood is a turbocharged 1.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engine, transversely mounted or side to side like that. The ADX is of course inherently front wheel drive, though this example is all wheel drive. It makes 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque at its peak. The front axle centerline meets with this little rubber gusset right here. So more than half, but not all, the engine is ahead of the front axle centerline. It's actually not quite so bad. Also, the engine is tucked down fairly low in here, and that does actually help for chassis balance. This is better than expected weight distribution, to be honest. We have 58% of the weight up front, 42% in the back. That's because this is all-wheel drive. It's 60-40 otherwise. Acura says this is engaging to drive. That won't hurt. Looking at the ADX in profile, this gives you a good look at the $600 optional color Urban Gray Pearl. I have seen this on a few Acuras now, and I do have to say I like the color. Because this is an A-Spec, aside from the very obvious A-Spec logo we have right here, we do have more gloss black to look at. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to see and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Base wheels on the ADX are 18 inches and they are pewter gray. Once you go to A-Spec, you get a 19-inch wheel, but that one is in shark gray. Because this is an A-Spec with the advanced package, we still get a 19-inch wheel, but now it's in Berlina black. And yes, fundamentally this is a subcompact crossover, so the wheels and tires in back are the same size as what's in front. Looking at the ADX from the rear, we have one more accessory to point out. It's actually largely on the side, but it's these little rear spoiler accents right here. And, you know, $375 adds a little something to the car. So sure, if you like it, that's cool with me. We do have a button right on the key fob, but we also have a button right here Standard equipment is a power tailgate on the ADX, and it reveals 24 cubic feet of space. If you need more than 24 cubic feet of storage, that's very easy to do. Open the doors, pull a couple levers, and you have 55 cubic feet of storage. And I would guess enough room for my bike, but let's find out. Well, width doesn't look like an issue. Nope, pretty easy to fit in width-wise. Oh, and length's not really a problem at all. Yeah, that actually slides right in. Length was my concern because it's a subcompact, but it actually fits in without much trouble at all. So yeah, plenty of room for my bike. Room to spare, in fact. All right, let's take a look inside. Because this is a big for a subcompact crossover, I am cautiously optimistic about space inside. And at first glance, it does look like we have above average legroom in here. That's nice. We also have this orchid interior with these blue accents right here. And I think that's a really nice color combination. Because this is an A-Spec with the advanced package, this is leather material on the seats. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and you can see that I do have a good 2 or 3 inches of legroom, and this seat on the passenger side is actually set pretty close to what I'm comfortable in the driver's side. I do currently have the easy ingress-egress system on, so this seat is actually farther back than usual, so I'd actually have more knee room than that usually. Considering everything, the seat bottoms are a little lower than ideal, so thigh support is only okay. And that does mean that I have right around a 90-degree bend in my knees. But on the plus side, I do have headroom. And that's despite having this moonroof right here in A-Spec and higher ADXs. One additional accessory that this particular ADX has is the Acura logo projected onto the pavement there. I know you can't really see it right now. Let me show it to you at night. That is a $190 accessory. Aside from that, we have some interesting patterns on the door here. More of that orchid and blue right here with a lot of black on the trim. We do have 2-position seat memory along with the normal controls on the door right there. And here is a reminder that this has the Bang & Olufsen sound system. That is courtesy of being an advanced package as well. Plenty of adjustments in the power seat, including lumbar support right there. We do have a couple buttons to the left of the steering wheel and stainless steel pedals, and steering adjust tilt and telescope manually right here. Always an Acura strong suit. The seat itself does look quite cozy with nice and fat upper and lower bolstering right here to hold you in place well. The steering wheel itself is a nice and small diameter and a nice and thick rim. And because it is an A-Spec, it is a flat bottom rim right here that says A-Spec on it. And because it's an A-Spec with the advanced package, it's also a heated steering wheel. We do also have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. And as the turbocharged 1.5 liter kicks on, there you see our fully digital 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster and our 9-inch center display. Both of these screens are standard equipment on the ADX, and that means that wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto is standard as well. A moonroof is also standard, but to go panoramic moonroof, that is A-Spec and higher. And since we're up here, we do have an electric privacy panel, and it's lovely. Heated seats are standard equipment on the ADX. Ventilated seats are A-Spec and higher. The dual zone climate control system is again standard, as are the USB Type-C ports, the 12-volt port right there, and this 15-watt wireless smartphone charger right there. Because we have an A-Spec with the advanced package, we get Google built in as part of the center display, which is Google Maps, Google Play Store, and Google Assistant. The advanced package also has Alexa built in. Back to the fundamentals, we have this one cup holder right here with this slot right here that works well for a smartphone. Beneath that, we have our individual drive mode, plus our other drive modes right there. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. And then our electric park brake right here, and then another big and deep cup holder behind that. Looking up, there are the controls for the actual moonroof and the privacy panel right there, which I already showed you. And we do also have a sunglasses holder. All right, let's talk drive modes. We have a few: Sport, Normal, Comfort, and Snow. We do not have an adjustable suspension in here. So this is the way the transmission behaves, the way the steering weights up, and the way the engine responds to the throttle pedal, throttle map as it's called. As I showed you, we also have a fifth drive mode, individual, and if I press and hold, this shows what you can configure in the individual drive mode. We will probably spend most of our time in the comfort drive mode, normal as well, but I will definitely dabble in sport, and I hope not snow, but we might play with individual. You never know. But to do that, we have to get back to the drive. So let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. There is one engine and one transmission choice for the ADX, and it is the exact same engine and transmission that you would get in the base Honda CR-V. It is a turbocharged 1.5 liter inline 4-cylinder that makes 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque attached to a continuously variable transmission. Acura calls this a sport-tuned continuously variable transmission. TBD on that. As for the engine, it does come with direct injection and it does have VTEC. It revs to a relatively high for a turbo engine, 6,500 RPM, but it does also ask for premium gasoline. Now I mentioned this is the exact same engine as the CR-V. It's also fundamentally the same engine that's in the base Integra, but in the Integra, you get 200 horsepower and 182 pound-feet of torque. I'm bummed that the ADX gets a little bit less. As I mentioned at the top, every trim of ADX can be had with either front or all-wheel drive. If you spend the $2,000 and get the all-wheel drive, you do get a system that can send up to 50% of the torque to the rear axle and does so in a way to try to minimize slip. And overall, despite being a little bit beneath the Integra, I do think this engine performs well. Currently in the comfort drive mode, floor the accelerator. The continuously variable transmission actually does a pretty swift job of getting to a better gear ratio and giving us good punch. That is faster than expected acceleration from a CVT. In fact, you don't get much of any weird surgy feeling. It does feel pretty direct. And then programmers of the transmission tuned it to have step changes in the ratios so they feel like gears. You get that distinctive engine climbing, drop, engine climbing. And all that I just said was in the comfort driving mode. So if I first switch to normal, floor the accelerator again, yeah, the engine's rev quick. The engine builds power and climbs and gives you full torque, full muscle, pretty darn fast. And in fact, it's slightly quicker than the average automatic transmission in the vehicles this class. So I have to say, I'm genuinely pleasantly surprised with the CVT, and this 1.5 liter is giving good punch. And we still have another drive mode to go. Sport driving mode. And I'm going to slow down a bit here as well. Floor the accelerator. Yep. Revs climb quickly. Yep. Same behavior. Maybe even the tiniest bit faster. The one difference is the engine sound. Now that's not the actual engine sound, of course. That is a manufactured sound courtesy of the sound system that is supposed to be, a little bit sportier sounding when you're in the sport driving mode. It's gimmicky. I don't love it, to be honest. The quality of the sound itself is fine, but I'd be just as happy if we just got the natural engine sound all the time. So credit where credit's due. This is a sport-tuned CVT, and it behaves really well. Honda builds among the best CVTs in the market. At the end of the day, I would still prefer an automatic. The 10-speed automatic that Honda has is fantastic, but as CVTs go, this is a good one. And as I put it back into the comfort driving mode, it also helps deliver pretty decent fuel economy, but honestly not great. You get 25 miles to the gallon in the city, 30 miles to the gallon on the highway, 27 combined. I honestly expected it to be a little bit higher than that, more like 27 in the city, 33, 34 on the highway. But considering that it's a premium car, considering that it does have the sport tune to it, so we are likely to keep the engine revs a little bit higher and those things, and it is still solid fuel economy. If you want better fuel economy, you can get the front wheel drive version of the ADX. I'll go ahead and put those up on the screen for you to see. That bumps the numbers up just a little bit. While fuel economy is important, especially now that we know that this is indeed a sport tuned CVT, we've got to test the acceleration. Of course I did that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. See what this baby Acura crossover can do. I do have the traction control in the reduced mode. I do have it in the sport driving mode, and I will also have and do have the transmission in S, not D. Let's do it. Okay, coming to a complete stop. CVT, so no advantage with brake torquing in this car. Floor the accelerator. Okay, come on. Now, there we go. All right, interesting. We get these step changes in the gear ratios to mimic gears, but there's no gears. But, you know, I have to say, it is really pretty decent pull. Okay. That is better than I expected. I have to admit that. I was a bit underwhelmed at the specs of this crossover. 190 horsepower, 179 pound-feet of torque. But when it comes to the performance, it actually holds up pretty well. Overall, solid acceleration. All right, let's dig into the chassis. Fundamentally, we do have the most common setup. It is a strut front suspension with a multi-link rear suspension. It is four-wheel independent, but I am happy to report that Acura really went right down the middle, maybe even edged toward the handling side of the ride and handling spectrum. We have a perfectly comfortable ride. It absorbs the bumps in the road without much trouble, and, you know, even over the sharp expansion joints and potholes and things like that, it's not bad. I didn't find it a problem at all. Yet the ride still is a touch on the firm side. If I turn the wheel, I get pretty decent response and not too much body roll. And that's nice to see. We don't have adjustable suspension or anything like that, so switching to the normal or the sport driving mode isn't going to give us any stiffer suspension, but it should firm up the steering a little bit. Oh, yeah, and the different engine noise. And yeah, the steering is a little firmer, which will make it a little bit easier to be precise. And again, the tune of the suspension is friendlier for folks that like a firmer ride, for folks that like to get a little bit spirited around corners. It's amenable to that, and I really appreciate that. Another advantage that I mentioned when we had the hood up, weight balance is actually pretty decent. We have 58% of the weight in front, 42 in back. So I'm glad to see that weight is distributed a little bit more evenly despite the inherent configuration of this crossover. Acura promised an engaging drive. Of course, I had to do a handling test. Let me show you. All right, everybody, time for a handling test in this Acura crossover. See how engaging a drive it really is. I do once again have it in the sport driving mode, and I have traction control reduced. So yeah, let's see how it feels. Okay, decent acceleration to get us going, not bad. You know what? A little bit of body roll, but not bad. Good feel. That's the critical thing. Really good feel. Not tons of grip from these tires, though. Yeah, you can lean on this thing and have some fun. There's not a ton of grip, which means it's easy to get to the limit and dance around. This thing is easy to drive at the limit, and I really appreciate that. good feel over those whoops in the road. Yeah, really good feeling from this chassis. You can feel everything that's going on with zero trouble. Okay, so there is some understeer, especially in the lower speed corners, but not excessive, certainly. You wouldn't expect anything other than that from an inherently front wheel drive setup and all that weight on the front end. So considering all those things, it's pretty well controlled understeer, and critically, it's easy to feel the limit. The limit's not that high with these all-season tires, so it's super easy to reach and just dance around and play. I think this might be the strongest single part of the ADX. It's fun to drive. Of course, a crossover like this will undoubtedly spend time on the interstate. Every car does. How does this ride and handling compromise work on those roads? I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how the ADX feels on the open road. I do have it in the comfort driving mode for this. Of course, I have traction control fully on, and we are in D, not S, for the CVT, and we'll see how it goes. I do, of course, have a full suite of driving aids. It is called Acura Watch. I will go ahead and put those up on the screen right now for you to see. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. At that speed, the engine actually spins relatively high these days. We're looking at about 2650, 2700 RPM. It's still pretty quiet. It's still mostly in the background, but it's the tiniest bit buzzy at that speed. Also, we are getting a fair amount of road noise coming through. This is definitely not top of the class premium car levels of cabin isolation. Wind noise is better, but I can still hear a little bit of wind noise coming through here as well. Other than that, the cabin is comfortable. The seats are definitely comfortable and supportive. I appreciate that part of it. And the driving aids seem to work pretty well. We're going through a curve right now. Take my hands off the wheel. And yeah, holds the road really nicely, follows the curve really nicely. So that part of it works well. Also, in terms of graphics, in terms of what you see that the car can see, Honda does a really good job there. As you can see, I'm in the fast lane in the moment, but we do get 3 lanes of traffic. And if there's a truck passing, you see a truck. If you see a car, it's a car. If you see a motorcycle, it's a motorcycle. That's a nice little added detail to this. Plus, if I turn the headlights on, the headlights come on in the graphic too. Pretty slick. Ultimately, I think Acura did a good job to make this comfortable. I think the ride is perfectly pleasant for the interstate, and I, again, really like the comfort of the seats and the amenities provided. But it's not the quietest place to take a road trip. So, what do I think of this brand new 2025 baby Acura crossover? There is a lot that I like about it. First of all, I think Acura did a good job with the styling. It is a nice blend of Integra looks with the more general Acura design signature that I think comes together in a nice cohesive way. And I think Acura did a good job to offer a lot of space. The fact that you can get 55 cubic feet with the second row folded down and easily swallow a bike is nice. As for the feature-rich interior, I mean, it's good, but I wouldn't say that that in of itself is a strong selling point. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the cabin isolation. I do wish this Acura were a little bit quieter, but critically, I am relieved and very happy to see that Acura did indeed maintain an engaging drive. Something of this size should still be fun to drive, should still have some response and some liveliness in the chassis. Acura did that. That just makes your everyday drive just that tiny bit more pleasant, more enjoyable, and keeps a smile on your face. And to me, that makes this ADX money well spent. Helps that it's generally useful too. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.